Well, good morning, U.S. History 1. This is Mr. C. I'm trying to give you a little help here on getting these assignments. I'm going to walk you through how to do one. So, we go to my lesson plans, and we're looking on the very first week we were gone. Let's say, for example, we're going to talk about that vocab, chapter 16 vocab. So, I go to my Renweb, and I have to go to my class view, but go into 18th of March, Wednesday, and I'm supposed to watch this video and then define the following on document, which is chapter 16 vocab 1. So I'm going to click on that. And here's my questions. Define the following. Fort Sumter, Jefferson Davis, Confederate States of America, and they've got little further on questions. So I'm just going to highlight that right there. I'm going to just copy and paste. I'm going to hit Control C. I'm going to go down here to my Word. I'm going to open up a Word document. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to New. I'm going to go to a blank document. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to paste, Control V. And there's my question, Chapter 16, Vocab 1. Put my name at the top. Mr. C. Mr. Cornelius. Okay. And then I've got to answer these questions. So I'm going to put that down, just kind of minimize that for the side here. And I'm going to go into a tab up here at the top. And I'm going to start looking for that very first thing. So Fort Sumter. So I'm going to go into Google's Find. You can use any of these other ones, but I'm just going to look up Fort Sumter there. I'm going to find Fort Sumter, and I want to look up the battle itself. I know it has to do with a battle or significant. There we go, Fort Sumter battle. So I'm going to click on that, and I got to remember what my questions were. So my questions were: when, where, what happened, and why is it worth knowing? When, where, what happened, and why is it worth knowing? So back to my thing here. Okay, so it happened April 12th to the 13th, 1861. That's when. Well, it happened in April. That's coming up for us in 1861. This is 2020. So I'm hitting copy on that, going back to my Word, going back here, and Control V. Okay. And then I go back to my article, and I'm looking at it. The bombardment of Fort Sumter near Charleston, South Carolina. So there's Charleston, South Carolina. Okay, there's my next answer. Going back to Word. When, where? Well, paste. Okay. What happened? I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading on that, but probably shouldn't take very long. Let's see. There was a bombardment of the fort. There's a picture of it that looks like somebody's bombing it. Pew, pew, pew. And the return gunfire and subsequent surrender by the United States Army. This started the American Civil War. That's obviously important. It starts one of the most important wars in our entire history, the one that changed us the most. So I'm going to put that down there. I've got that answer. All right. Why is it worth knowing? Well, put it right here. It'll be. It started the Civil War. It started the Civil War. Okay. What exactly happened? It was a bombardment. Bombardment of a United States fort by the Confederate. I am bad at typing because the year that we took typing, I chose to start foreign languages, and I never took typing. I started taking French in, oh, there's the bell. Gotta go. The Confederate forces in South Carolina. Okay. Jefferson Davis. Birthplace, college, political offices held, who he was during the Civil War. Okay, Jefferson Davis. So let's go back over to here. I'm going to go back. We put in Jefferson Davis. So I know a little bit. At least I know when someone says Fort Sumter, I know what they're talking about. That was the battle that started the Civil War. Jefferson. Oh, somebody went. Jefferson Davis went to school. Yes, he did. A couple places. Jefferson Davis. Okay. So here we go. Jefferson Davis. Let's see. He was an American politician who served. He was a president of the Confederate States from 1861 to 1865. Well, that's the last thing that my question was, because I remember what my questions are. I just remind myself there's my questions. And it was who he was during the Civil War. Well, I know the Civil War was from 1861 to 1865, so I can do this right here. Control C, go back to my Word document. Open my Word document, Control V, change that into a sentence because I'm practicing. Not only am I practicing my research skills, my reading skills, I'm also practicing my information skills. So I'm working for a boss someday and he wants me to summarize something and get some information for him. And I'm going to show that I can use complete sentences. He served as the President of the Confederate States from 1861 to 1865. Okay, so I need to know his birthplace, his college, and political offices held. So back to Jefferson Davis. He was born in Fairview, Kentucky. There we go. Control C. Going back to my document. Control V. And making it into a sentence again. College. I'm gonna have to do a little bit deeper here to find that out. Where did he go to college? Let's look. His eldest brother secured the Douglas Davis appointment to the United States Military Academy. Now wait a minute. I thought a lot of people said he went to Transylvania University. Let's go down here and see about that. Let's see. Childhood. Okay, he moved twice. He studied at Transylvania University in Lexington. That's where I'm from. As a matter of fact, two of my cousins went to Transylvania University, which is a very, very prestigious and a very, very expensive private school. It's one of the top liberal arts colleges in the entire country. But then he got an appointment to the United States Military Academy. So what I was really looking at, I could take either one of those. So I'm just going to combine those two. I know how to use the word and. So I'm going to go back to my document. And there it is. He attended Transylvania. Whoops, well, I can't type. Y'all are so much better at me than this. And graduated from the United States Military Academy, and that's West Point. That's where I went to school. Okay, political offices held. Why would he become president? What does he know about being president? So let's go back to that. And there it is. I remember this story, by the way, if you read about that. He was involved in what's called the Eggnog Riot, and they always tell that story at West Point around Christmas time, and he was involved in that. Almost got kicked out. Could have been kicked out. Okay, political offices. He was a member of Congress. He was a senator from Mississippi. Okay. He was a Secretary of War. Good grief. Okay, I'm happy with that. So back to my Word document. He was a member of Congress. A senator from Mississippi, and the U.S. Secretary of War. And that's it. Okay, the Confederate States of America. Order of the states seceding, starting with South Carolina, so I gave one. The first capital, the second capital, and the number of stars on the flag and why. Okay, Confederate States of America. So, back to here. And I just set an example of why I shouldn't have my ringer turned on because that distracted me. Until I'm done with my little lesson here, how long that takes. So, I'm going to type in Confederate States of America. There it is right there, Confederate States of America. And I'm going to click on that. Okay, what was the order of the Confederate States of America? Let's see. Here we go. States. Click on down to here. Oh, here we are. The order of session resolutions and dates are, let me just copy and paste that. South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. That's when Fort Sumter was bombarded, so there were only 7 at that time. Then Virginia joined Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Control C. Going down to that. Control V. The first capital. All right, let's go back to that. The first capital. I bet I can find that up here if I go. Usually in the main box on the side, there's going to be some good information about that. Let's see. Here it is, capital. Usually on any country, you've got the capital, your main information here, the government, the president, what kind of language they speak, maybe something about the flag. Here it is. Montgomery, Alabama was the first one, and Richmond, Virginia. Okay, so there's the capital. So I can just copy that, Control C, and go down here to Word. Okay, Control V. Just remind myself, because I'm going to keep this document, obviously, on my laptop or my iPad or whatever. Capitals. Montgomery, we know about that. That's here. And then Richmond. I'm going to clear all that up. I can do that by simply clicking that and then getting rid of all that other stuff. But I don't have to do that. And then I wanted to know what else. What was the other thing I wanted to know? Got to go back up and look at my questions. Oh, number of stars on the flag and why. So I better look up the Confederate flag. That may not be on that same site. So I'll look up Confederate flag. Go back up to here. I'm going to go back. Or actually, what I could have done was, if I looked up at the top on that same site, there is the flag. And I can click on right there, flag. If I click on it, 3 successive designs served as the official national flag of the Confederate States. The first one, with 13 stars, each representing a state. Okay. And let's read about that. They had one with 7 stars. Okay, I see why that is, because there were only 7 states at the time. And then, they kept adding states. That makes sense. Okay. And then they used to use that flag, but that looked too much like the American flag. That makes sense. So if you saw that flag, you might think it was an American flag if it was flapping in the wind, and that would cause confusion on the battlefield. Okay. So then they did these. Okay, that's interesting. And then this one with the banner on it. Okay, so we usually think of the Confederate flag, we mean this one right here, that's really what's called the battle flag. Okay. So I still need to know, so it has 13 stars. Okay. Oh, here it is. Over the course of the flag's use by the Confederacy, additional stars were added, usually bringing the total number of stars on the flag to 13. This reflected the Confederacy's claims of having admitted Kentucky and Missouri into the Confederacy, although they were representing the Confederate Congress and had shadow governments made up of deposed former state politicians. Neither state was ever fully controlled or administered by the Confederacy. Aha. So that's what happened. It had 13, and that's the way they got that was, even though there's only 11 states, they claimed Kentucky and Missouri because they had shadow governments. So I'm going to put that down here, Control V, and I'm done with that. So 13 is what I'm looking for. Okay, the Anaconda Plan. Whose idea was it? How did it get its name? And explain the plan. Got it. Anaconda Plan. Anaconda Plan. Back here, back up, back. Google bar, Anaconda Plan. Anaconda Plan. There it is. Boom. Okay. Hey, it looks like a picture that Mr. C picked out. Okay. And I'm going to pick on it right here. Good information. The Anaconda Plan. It was proposed by Union General-in-Chief Winfield Scott. It emphasized a Union blockade of the southern ports and called for an advance down the Mississippi River to cut the South in two. Okay, I get that. That looks an awful lot like, let's look at that picture here when I cut and paste this. We'll come back to that. And I know this. I'm sorry, I just know it. The Anaconda Plan is named, it is named for the snake. And I can get that because I can put two and two together and I can go, aha, that's a snake. And anaconda is a snake that squeezes its prey. I get that. Okay. For the snake that squeezes rather than biting its prey. Ta-da. And when you look at that plan, it's really the same thing the British were trying to do up here up north. If you remember before, the British were going to take New York, and at the Battle of Saratoga, that's what they were trying to do when they were going to cut off Massachusetts and everyone else from the rest of the colonies and divide it in two. Same concept. We're going to circle the South, go up the Mississippi right here, and cut the South into two. You'd have Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas with all its food that it could produce on this side. You'd be controlling the river and going deeper and deeper, deeper up toward Tennessee, Kentucky, all that, and then you'd cut it in two. So I got that. Okay. Almost done. I'm going back to my document. And what's my final question here? Oh, Robert E. Lee. I want to know his father, college, military accomplishments before the Civil War, his views on slavery, and his home at the start of the war. Okay. So back to my looking it up. I'm going to go back to here and return and return and return. Okay, Robert E. Lee. And this is going to be so much faster for you all because you can type. I cannot type. Okay, we got Robert E. Lee. I know that picture. Yeah, Robert E. Lee. Similar to the one that's in the classroom here. He was the son of his father. That's a son means that's who your father was. He was a son of Revolutionary War officer Henry Lighthorse Harry Lee III, who we actually talked about that. He was the one who was Washington's cavalry commander, and he fought for General Washington in the Revolutionary War. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Let's just cut that whole thing. So let's go back to here. See, that answers a bunch of the questions. He was the son of Lighthorse Harry Lee III, who was big. He was a top graduate of the United States Military Academy. That would be his college. He was an exceptional officer and military engineer in the United States Army for 32 years. He served throughout the United States. He distinguished himself. That means he got medals and things during the Mexican-American War. He was the superintendent of West Point, and he was the husband of Mary Anna Custis Lee, who was the adopted great-granddaughter of George Washington. That's pretty impressive. I'll just leave it at that. I think that's enough accomplishments, military and otherwise. Okay, now, what about his views on slavery? Let's get back to the story. Let's go to that. So, might be something here. You look in these sections and you'll say, Okay, here we go. Lee's views on race and slavery, right here. Okay, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of reading here. While Lee protested he had sympathetic feelings for blacks, they were subordinate to his own racial identity. In other words, he might feel sorry for them, but they weren't as good as him. Yikes. While Lee held slavery to be an evil institution, he also saw some benefit to blacks held in slavery. Wow. While Lee has helped assist individual slaves to freedom in Liberia and provided for their emancipation in his own will, he believed that the enslaved should be eventually freed in a general way, only at some unspecified future date as part of God's purpose. Slavery for Lee was a moral and religious issue, not one that could yield to political solutions. I'm going to take all that. I'm going to just take that. Okay. Control C. Going back to that document. Okay, Control V. And I could even break up these sentences if I wanted to remember. I could put them in bullet points. So I could say, there's the father thing right there. So he was a top graduate at West Point. I think he was second in his class, if I remember right. There's that. I could cut that off. And then he was... Okay. And then finally, home at the start of the war. Okay. And this actually is one to see if you remember something we talked about before. So if you remember, when we had to do famous monuments, one of them was Arlington. One of them was Arlington National Cemetery. So if we go back to that section that has that little breaking down right up here. What was his home? Relations, rank, commands, branch, allegiance, buried, born. Now, you could take his home anywhere he was born, and I would take Stratford Hall, Virginia for that. But you also could take this place. And this one's a little bit harder, so I'll give you credit for that. But this is Arlington House, which is Lee's house, and it's now overlooking Arlington National Cemetery, because that's what happened, is that the U.S. government seized his home. He never got to go back to it, and they turned his front lawn into our nation's cemetery to honor all those that have given their lives or served for their country. So I'm going to put back in here his home was Arlington, which is now our national cemetery. Cannot spell. Honor all those who have served their country. Okay, so now I'm going to go up here. I'm going to hit File, Save As. I'm going to give it a name. Put it into U.S. History 1. That's where I'm going to put mine. U.S. History 1. And I'm going to call it Vocab 16. And put my name in it, Mr. C. And hit Save. And now I've got that document done, and I just need to go to Homework Drop and drop it in. I hope that this has helped. and that this little short document also showed you how quickly that can be done. Have a great, great day, and I'll be making some other ones to try to help you out. God bless y'all. Keep your chins up. We're all learning, and we're all in this together. Bye.